Welcome to the Long Game Podcast. I'm your host, Sandra Scaiano. Are you a collector? A collector of information, saving links and posts, PDF downloads, screenshots and articles, all of it. This is the modern way of industry research, pulling from your individual cultural influences to create your own nuanced point of view. The resources we tap into, they inspire original thought. So writing these thoughts out as notes and docs and jotting ideas down in your journal, it's how we do it. Only though to turn the page to the next day and the next batch of ideas. Organizing your ideas is important to be able to access them, to be able to remember them, and to incorporate them in the work that you do. The long game is idea organization. You're listening to the Long Game Podcast with Sandra Scaiano. In a world where everyone is doing, it's easy to get lost in a sea of comparison, secret tricks, and promises of overnight success. The long game is my approach to business, the actual day in and day out philosophy that you have to show up, you have to do the work, and there's no quick fixes for long-term success. I'm a web designer, digital strategist, and energetic thinker, and I'm here to share the process and lessons I experience with my clients daily who are going through the same struggles of building a business as you are. We'll hear from successful entrepreneurs sharing their long game strategies, and I'm fun, so we're going to have a little fun along the way too. Thanks for being here. Let's get to today's episode. I'm an idea saver. I take what inspires me and collect it to use in some way at a later date. So many times I'm doing this ongoing throughout the course of the day. I read something and I jot an idea down. I attend a training and I've got a page of notes. Coaching calls that I've been a part of for years, they always inspire ideas and more notes. So these events happen frequently and I'm jotting notes down and dropping them in a folder to deal with later. But keeping your finger on the pulse of your industry these days, it does require tapping into social, tapping into digital and community resources to see what people are asking, what are they talking about, and what's working. But what happens with all these thoughts that you collect? For me, they are strewn between platforms. I'm saving posts on social, adding notes in Evernote, and recording ideas in text docs. Suffice to say, my ish is all over the place, and this is the way I work though. We all have our own unique approach and it's what allows us to create a viewpoint. So I've developed this method over the years of culling through my notes for strategy and program development. I rework ideas over time and then, really keeping track of what interests me and linking it together with certain projects that I'm working on. And this is how I work with my clients too. I take meticulous notes from our sessions together and refer back to them when I'm creating anything for the brand. The owner's own words intermingle with my thoughts from the time they were said. And I'm able to turn this into the perfect whatever it is we are working on. I'm able to formulate and deliver from the notes that I keep. This past year has been a slow process of organization for me. One where I have become, much more aware of my needs to categorize ideas so that I can access them. And as my work has become more focused over the years, I've been able to dial in on the areas of digital marketing that I work with my clients on and the parts that interest me. And this is similar to the idea of content pillars that we've talked about. Organization starts with knowing the areas of content that you collect. And of course, part of organization is always clearing out. So, as I become clearer and more focused on what I want to, the areas that I work on, I happily clear out what isn't serving me on the path that I am on. So what's important for you to know, for you to keep tabs on in your industry? How are you using the items you collect? And what type of access do you need to them? I used to be a big notebook writer. I wrote all my thoughts and call notes, ideas, etc. in various different styled notebooks. I would then flag pages, highlight ideas, and transfer all of the to-do items onto one page. It was always like a working system, like I was working in it as I was doing it. When I filled a notebook, I stacked it on the pile with the others on the shelf. When I needed an idea, I would rummage through the flagged pages and the highlights until I found what I was looking for. And then the style of the notebook even started to work as part of the filing system. I started to know what info and what time periods were associated with each different notebook. That took so much brain power just to and nobody else could find anything. I knew I was the only one, right? So when I switched from analog to digital, I sort of kept the same system, but just on my computer. And I am really going to attribute this poor idea organization system to not slowing down. I just kept moving forward, but I wasted so much time in finding items, and even up till a point, I still do. So, I have over the years used Evernote, and, this software has really allowed for me to capture, organize, and search for things in a relatively easy and expeditious manner. So that was like a bonus, kind of moving from my totally unorganized to a system inside of Evernote. But, even Evernote started to get out of hand. I had so many folders and tags and things that weren't even relevant for me anymore. So, all of this, culminated in a bomb cyclone of notes and ideas that it's really painstaking to access and, not helpful, not even the whole reason why I was saving these notes, right? So, I figured that there has to be a better way. There's got to be something, right? And of course there is. There are 1,000 ways to organize everything. And that is why idea organization is a process. I've really wanted to access my ideas organized by topic so that I can incorporate them into the active work that I'm doing with my clients and my programs. Filed away by date in a folder that I have to remember where I put it or what was going on just isn't cutting it anymore. And, one of the joys that organization does for us is that it creates space. It requires less work for us once we have the system set up, right? When your pantry is neatly organized, you're not wasting time rifling through packages to get what you need. All that mental energy can be used in other ways. Organized ideas are less frustrating to locate and use. There's no more swearing under your breath as you open 10 files to find what you're looking for. And not to mention, when you can peruse something that has all of your options and resources, you are able to remember the brilliant ideas and notes that you have. I love writing stream of consciousness, just in the moment. Pulling those bits together has totally formulated meaningful strategies that I've created for myself and my clients. There is gold in what you write. So you want to be able to refer to them at a later date. So I'm going to share my process with you next. Idea organization has been a big focus for me as late. It's funny how the universe calls on you to give attention to the areas that you need, right? I've pittered around with my getting ideas organized in some form of way. I've kept up and cleaned out over holiday break each year, and that always seems to be a good time for some purging. But now it's even more clear what I'm holding in my hands. My notes and the information, that is the key to my future and how I want to approach the work that I do. I'm really taking this as a serious asset, not just I wrote these ideas and I threw them down somewhere, right? So much of what I'm talking about here, they're my personal ideas, how I interpret what is happening in the industries around me. So having a take on your business is definitely your future, right? And it's highly valuable. And it's what makes me an energetic thinker. So it's really worth the time to invest in this process. So let me take you through my process a bit. All right. Step one, as I mentioned earlier, the first part of idea organization is identifying your topics. So what are your silos of content that you're collecting ideas about? Identifying these gives you overarching categories that you can further break down as new ideas come. So like write out as many as you need, as many topics, overarching categories as you need. But keep in mind that like focus categories keep things streamlined. That is, a part of the whole organization. Like you want to keep things streamlined. Look at what you're going to talk about, like what you create in your business. Your content silos should support those ideas. I've been reworking my silos for the past year or so, and I did a big sweep and deleted a bunch of folders of stuff that I wasn't referencing. And I created a whole new folder system for my desktop that works with the way I think. And that's the other thing to think about. Like, this is how you think and how it works for you. So my main folder is named strategy. And then inside, there are a number of folders on specific topics that I create strategies for in my business. So there's a folder for courses, a folder for membership sites, a folder for content creation, etc. And then inside these folders, there can be subcategories of each main topic. So for the courses folder and the courses topic, I may have ideas about developing your product, your course product, or I may have a folder all about automations as it relates to courses. And, I took this same naming strategy over to Evernote, and here I renamed my folders and deleted some along the way. So it's that cleaning up while renaming, right? And again, this focused approach is being used across both platforms now. So there's uniformity and consistency. And, when you're choosing your silos, like I always think about it, I love to put it in the analogy of like a menu, right? Like you have appetizers, main courses, and desserts. Like those are your overarching categories. And then you have, chocolate mousse cake, cheesecake, ice cream under those categories. And you may have flavors of ice cream under that. So think about that when you're doing your categories so that, you're able to find ideas. And that way it also limits the number of folders that you're looking through. And it's a thoughtful process of how to organize. So in my process of organizing, it's organizing these thoughts, and it takes time. Like give yourself the time for it. So I'm making these small steps of creating these folders so I can still find things as I need as I'm moving them into the next phase of the organization. Okay, step 2. So an important and time-consuming step here, is picking the right software to place your ideas into. You really do have to spend some time researching platforms to see what they can do for you. And again, there are multiple ways to arrange the info. I've been bouncing between Trello, Google Sheets, and Airtable. And, I already use all of these platforms in my business to some extent. So I'm just exploring their capabilities a little bit deeper. Like I don't need to get into some brand new program that I have to start at point zero from. I think I can do this way. And, I'm asking questions like, will they allow me to do what I envision? I've got a vision in my head of how I want this to be so that I can access it. Can I access the info easily when I need to and on every device? Like it needs to be on my phone and my computer and my iPad. And can we start to organize dynamically so that interrelated items can be connected? And, this is one thing that I'm leaning toward Airtable for because it's got these advanced capabilities. So like, if there is a idea that falls into 2 categories, I want them to be linked somehow rather than everything needing to be duplicated. So, almost like a tagging system in a way where it can be in 2 places at once. So, then I started realizing like, I'm opening my eyes to this, like, what are the possibilities and where is this ultimately going to go? But, even some of this research is jumping the gun. Like, I've got to start to organize the info to see what I need so that I can better pick the software in the end. So my advice to you is start out simple. Google Sheets, get it going, get it set up in Google Sheets. And, what's cool also about Google Sheets is you can always import a Google Sheet into a lot of different software. So start to organize, see what you need, but keep in mind, what questions, what are the questions that you need to ask of the software, and start doing that research. And I do really recommend that you choose something that's already in your wheelhouse, that you're already using for your business. So, you're not just adding, you're kind of expanding that use. Okay. Number 3, get some assistance. Okay. So one of my strengths of my VA Grace is spreadsheets and organizing information. So I am totally going to lean on her here. When you work with a team, it's important to know what to delegate. So much of this organization is on my plate because they're my notes, my brain work. But when you bring other people in who have organizational talents, they can add ideas to the mix. So I'll be sorting and categorizing and then sending over to Grace for the next spreadsheet steps. The other piece of bringing in your team is that once the system is set up, we're going to be using it ongoing. So I'm going to be placing items into our system or sending them to Grace to add, and having Grace in at the beginning stages, has us create a system that we both contribute to and we both know intimately. And of course, we then create a system doc. So, we have it documented how this system works so we can share it when our team grows. And, this is a major undertaking in my business. And, something that I truly believe is going to help us to level up in the information that we provide to those we work with. A system like this, it's also going to help us capture ideas that support our existing work so that we can create supplemental programs, that really support the core work that we do. No more good ideas lost to the ether because they will be captured and categorized and accessible. And, I just want to emphasize, if I haven't enough already, that these ideas are what I create from. The bits and pieces of ideas come together to create real ways of doing, successful ways of doing in my business and for my clients. So taking the time to do this, it's really an investment in my business. It's the time saver over the long game, and a system that we'll continue to implement as the voice of the work that we do grows stronger. And Grace said it to me the other day when we were talking about this. This is something that we can pass on to those we work with. And I love that she said that because we like to create our unique systems and share them within our world. When you have figured something out, there's value to that. So yes, if we can create this system and it works for us, now granted, it is going to be tailored to how my brain works, but sometimes other people just need to be shown the system and it might work for them. So I love that concept of sharing that idea once the system is developed. And, I want to encourage you all to pay attention to what is happening in your industries. Listen to what people are saying in groups and let that spark ideas for you. Write the ideas that come to you, write them down somewhere. It's here that your content develops too. This curation of content is an influence on your own ideas. People always say, I don't know what to write. Well, write the ideas that come to you and then go refer to your notes. So develop your system off of what works for your brain. I've been to some trainings and have seen, what is taught on naming conventions. And it's all very interesting to see the inside of someone else's idea organization, which is really why I'm sharing mine with you. But, none of those naming conventions that I learned ever really stuck with me for the long term because, again, they required me to think too hard to access the info. So do it your way. Create what works for you and how you think. All right. Go capture your ideas because they can be fleeting sometimes. And then you can figure out how to organize it all as you go. All right, guys. I love sharing this with you. And let me know if you have any questions. And as I develop my system a little bit more, I'm going to swing back around and share it with you again. So listen, you guys have a great week and I'll see you soon. Thanks for joining me today. You can access more info in the show notes at thelonggamepodcast.net. If today's show connected with you in some way, please share it with your friends or hop on iTunes and leave me a review. Until next time, keep playing the long game. This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.